Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Idiosyncratic Fables, a part of Wilderness Fire Productions, where we are cultivating the passion for books, audiobooks, and overall storytelling. Since time first began, we have been storytellers. Everybody's got a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. I'm your host, James, and today I've got a real treat for you. My guest is the chaos-loving, slug-appreciating LitRPG and cozy fantasy author who writes under the name Reck Well. They are the twisted mind behind the Potions and Perils series, the gloriously unhinged Stumbling Up, A Loser's Guide to Progression, and a growing lineup of heartfelt, hilarious, and delightfully flawed characters who stumble their way through swamps, stats, and questionable decisions. Whether you love found family vibes in a cozy swamp village, banana slugs with big personalities, looking at you, Richard, or underdogs who somehow keep leveling up despite themselves, Reck brings something refreshingly human and inhuman to the genre. We're talking writing journeys, embracing the loser protagonist, the wild world of LitRPG, cozy fantasy with teeth, and plenty of behind-the-scenes chaos. So grab your favorite potion, settle in, and let's get to it. Reck, my dude, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James. It's a great to be here. And thanks for that amazing intro.
You're quite welcome. Far be it for me to not do my research and offer the necessary accolades that are due. Now, you've mentioned writing your whole life, but published your first full-length novel around, 2017? Right?
I finished writing it in 2017. I don't think I brought it out until like maybe 2021, 2022. Yeah.
Okay. What finally pushed you from writing privately to sharing your stories with the world?
Yeah, no. I turned 40. I turned 40 and I had this secret dream to be a writer that I'd harbored my whole life. And I turned 40 and I was like, oh my God, I should maybe get on that. I'd like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been writing, but I hadn't really taken myself seriously. And I was like, if I'm not going to take myself seriously, nobody else is. So let's go at it and see what happens.
I can relate to that because I am also in my 40s and I've got a plethora of ideas for books that need to be written. I've got one it's finished, but it's still in that rough manuscript draft stage right now, currently being edited. But yeah, similar mindset. I'm like, you know what? Why not? Let's just, fingers to the keyboard and just plug away at it.
Right. There had been some author. I think I told people it was Anne McCaffrey, but then I did some research and it wasn't her. So I'm not sure who it was, but there's some famous author that didn't really take off or really take themselves seriously until they're like 45. And I was like, oh crap.
We're not alone.
Yeah. We gotta get on this. We gotta get on this, man.
Right. Now, you're also based in Kansas and founded Dragon Tomes Publishing.
Yeah.
How would you say your background in IT and everyday life influenced the worlds and characters you create?
Yeah. I think that IT translates really well to LitRPG because it's got that kind of logic progression to it that you find in IT. I was not a straight programmer. I mean, like if you put a gun to my head, I could probably dink around in a couple languages, but that wasn't my day to day. I was more of a project program manager. So the orchestration, it's funny because, in some respects, the orchestration of like social media and the business and your cover artist and your, audio folks and stuff, that is maybe in line with what I was doing in my day job. But I will say it's ended up being a lot harder than I expected it to be, getting everything to line up for the go live date and keeping track of all the details. I think that there's this real challenge when you're doing something creative that the rest of it, you end up spending so much time on the rest of it. It's like, man, all I wanted to do was write stories, and here I'm like making TikToks and talking to vendors and ordering ribbons and so.
I get it. Now, diving a little bit deeper into Dragon Tomes Publishing, when folks visit the website, they're going to see both Reck Well books as well as MJ Douglas books, both of which are you, correct?
Yeah. So MJ is my it's my science fiction pen name, and Reck Well is more my fantasy lit RPG pen name. I wanted there's a there's a lot of advice out there where you need to split your pen names if you're doing different genres, and that was my split. I've kind of let MJ go. It my first 2 books I published under MJ, and I've gotten a bit better as a writer since then. But I like, my heart does love science fiction, so yeah, I dabble here and there. So we'll see. I mean, maybe I'll bring some more out, but most of my effort these days is on the Reck Well pen name, and that's when I'm got my most recent couple books are out on. So
fantastic. Let's talk about Potions and Perils really quick, going into the Evermoss series, right? That one has been praised for its cozy tone, sharp wit. I'm a huge fan of sharp wit. Found family and humor. What inspired the story of Ishael and the village in the swamp?
Yeah, I read Legends and Lattes, and I was like, I mean, it's a great book, but I wanted to write my own version of it. So I went like Swamp Witch Cottagecore of this, witch who was struggling with her little witchery, and it's got a little bit of romance element to it. But when I read Legends and Lattes, I was like, man, there's something to this. Like, do we always need the epic fantasy? It really opened until then I hadn't really read much cozy fantasy, and that was kind of the inspiration. I have a whole series planned. I've got book 2 mostly written, and one of my goals is to maybe bring out book 2 this fall, but yeah, it got interrupted mid-stride, and it's been difficult to come back to it.
I get that. Speaking of Legends and Lattes, had the opportunity to listen to Travis Baldree when he was talking about the origin behind the idea for Legends and Lattes, to where we have the main mercenary character, the female orc, who just, after 40 years of doing it, just packs up and moves to a completely different lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, Travis did exactly that. He spent, 40 or at age 40, he had done, a video game. He had done, this, that, and the other. He goes, I need something different, and just packed up and moved to a completely different state. I was like, dude, how cool is that?
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Listen to all of us in our 40s being like, we're just going to do our own thing. It's the millennial midlife crisis.
Right.
You follow your dream.
Yeah, speaking of millennials, I kind of fall in that weird, like, kind of gray area gap. Because depending upon which chart you use, they all vary. I am born in 1980, so I'm a little bit of Gen X, I'm a little bit of millennial, and I've got like that weird hybrid mentality of both. I think Zennial is the term that the kids are saying nowadays.
Yeah, I'm 82, and I just go with elder millennial. I think the millennials get maligned.
Yeah.
But, yeah. A little bit. I'm optimistic, so
right. Yeah, I tell my kids that I'm old enough to drink from the fire hose and live, or garden hose, excuse me. Go play in the sewer runoff back when I lived in Louisiana, and I was also there for the birth of the internet. And yes, I'm older than Google. I was like, oh wow, you're ancient, Dad. I'm like, thank you. I love you too.
My daughter had a school project, and they had the kids come home and ask for to bring in something that your parents had when they were children. And I sent her with the AOL connection sounds.
Yes. So what was the after action then? Did she tell you about the teacher's cringe reaction, or
the teacher thought it was hilarious and was 100% on board with it, and all the kids were like, what is that monstrous sound?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Right. God. But I mean, you say it and you can hear it, right? I mean,
easily. Yeah, it's like a default programming on our brains to automatically hear that equate with AOL.
But, it's wild being where we're at generationally, because, I mean, I didn't really have a smartphone until I was 28-ish,
Right.
because it was, it was the newfangled thing that kids had, and
Yeah.
how useful is that going to be? And now I don't live without it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I remember when the very first iPhone came out. This was during my military time in the United States Army, was stationed over in Bamberg, Germany, and one of the platoon sergeants held up this black brick and said, "Gentlemen, this is called an iPhone. If you don't have one, I highly recommend you get it. Look at all the cool stuff it can do." We're going, what the blank is an iPhone? That just seems obsolete. I don't think I want one of those.
Hmm.
And this was with, like, similar age. I was like 27, 28, and just scratching my head going, I don't know about that. And yet here I am. I've got a Samsung Galaxy S22,
Yeah.
which I'm waiting until it officially dies on me.
Yeah, I actually had similar, where I got my first IT job in my late 20s, and they were like, "You really need this Android phone." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Well, you need to be able to check your email
Right.
anytime." I was like, "Why would I want to do that?"
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to Potions and Perils really quick. We got off on that tangent, which I have no regrets of, and I'm looking at my
Mhm.
questions going, I have nothing in here about smartphones, and that's okay. I mean, because these conversations are meant to be organic and blossom as they
Mhm.
should so choose.
Well, you did say I was chaotic at the beginning intro, so.
Yeah, which ties into the next bit. You speak of chaos goblin energy.
Mhm.
Talk to me about that.
Um, I I like complicated stories with with people with complex relationships. So there's a lot of just mess in my books, because I think that reflects my life, reflects the stories I want to listen to or hear.
Yeah.
And so Potions and Perils, it gets messy. There's a bunch of just kind of off the wall characters in there. The circumstance is a little, like the swamp witch, you know, her has been kind of put down by her mom her whole life as being like not as good. And she ends up, there's like a chemical spill in her swamp that she's got to figure out how to clean up with magic. And she kind of rises to the occasion. But there's also like a side romance, and her familiar, makes fun of her all the time. And there's a bunch of, people in the town that have very off the wall personalities. So it's a lot of fun. And then, stumbling up is kind of like my ode to that friend group you might have had in college or high school or whatever, where it's just a bunch of folks just hanging out, being like just goofballs.
Yeah.
Except you throw in, dungeons and danger and liches and a sentient banana slug, and like, why not, right?
Everybody needs a sentient banana slug.
Right? I think so.
I mean, if I had my own personal banana slug, I probably would stick with the name Richard because that's also my middle name. So great choice there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It may be changed. Anyway, do you have any fun anecdotes from writing or reader reactions to the world building, side characters, or even specific moments in Potions and Perils?
Um, in Potions and Perils, I get messages. It's sapphic. I am trans American, but I spent the first 40 years of my life as a lesbian, and it is kind of an ode to like sapphic relationships and stuff. And I get a lot of I do a lot of like book sales and stuff, and there's not, when you go to like your average book sale in Kansas, there's not a lot of like LGBTQ rep at them. And so, and I wear like a rainbow Leonard and stuff. And I make it obvious that I write LGBTQ characters because I didn't want somebody to come to the booth and buy something and think it was something else.
Right.
But there's this moment where you get these folks will be like, they're like, okay, another this, another that. And then they come to my booth and they're like, oh, and you have that like
Right.
moment. And I mean, maybe I don't make as much sales as the romanticy into the booth next to me, but like the moment that you have that connection, and I've had
Right.
people come back and be like, where's book 2? I really liked book 1. It's just nice to have those moments where you connect with people in that kind of meaningful way.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of plays into the whole the phrase that says, you can't please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I even came across a video short earlier this morning that says, regardless of what you write, you will have haters.
Mhm.
Every genre has their haters, um, which is great for me because I'm like, okay, what if they love it? What if they hate it? Well, there's going to be
It's gonna
haters.
happen. Yeah, it's just part of like, yeah, being there. I haven't actually experienced much hate yet. I mean, maybe that
Good.
that will change, but I mean, I think that regardless of who you are, I really write about people who are having just kind of struggles. Like in Stumbling Up, my main character, he, the world's power system is kind of like what you practice. You get skills in what you practice, and my main character practices a lot of self criticism. Actually, gets a self critic skill, right?
I
And it'll
remember.
just trigger on him, and he'll doom spiral. And then somebody's like, "Hey, Cole, turn off your skill," and he's like, yeah, okay, that's just me being in my head." Right, which is really relatable. I don't care who you are. I mean, he's a straight guy, right? And I
Right.
don't care who you are, like that is real, right? And so my hope is that I'm a bridge builder, and maybe my life is really different from your average person's life, but I'm telling stories that everybody can relate to no matter who you are. And I'm hoping that that humanizes everybody for everybody else, right? Like I
Yeah.
want us to see each other as humans, because I think that at the end of the day, if you really get down to it, that most folks are like 90% on the same page, right? And it's when we
Right.
dehumanize each other and we otherize each other, that's when we end up in problems as a society.
Right. Completely 100% agree. I'm glad you brought up Stumbling Up because that's my next block. Speaking of Stumbling Up and good old Colt, what sparked this comedy? What was your
Oh,
inspiration for it?
yeah. I, so I was at Dragon Con a few years ago, and there was a bunch of people at the bar, and they were a little toasted, and they were yelling about how lit RPG is just numbers go up, numbers go up. And there's truth in that, like progression and numbers going up is a big part of the genre. But my friend and I were sitting there, and we were like, what if we what if you made a lit RPG that wasn't just it wasn't just numbers go up? What if numbers went down a little bit too? Or like what if they struggled? I think then we had this whole conversation about how you'd have to be like really straightforward about that, which is why it's called Stumbling Up.
Right.
So people would know what they're signing up for. Because if you're looking for just straight power fantasy, it's maybe not your thing. Although the characters do get more powerful and they do progress, but it's an awkward. I mean, these guys, the premise is that they are having their like quarter life crisis, and they're in these like dead end jobs, and they get drunk and sign up basically to be in the Adventurers Guild. It's like military recruitment, like sign here, now you're an adventurer, and then they get thrust into adventuring. And normally you train for years to be an adventurer, and they are just really struggling. Um, so yeah, so that's her. So Dragon Con, like 2003, is what we can
Okay.
think for this for summing up.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just like you said, many lit RPGs out there, talk about, numbers go up, they got to go up. They feature overpowered protagonists or
Mm-hmm.
clear power fantasies. Yours leans into losers stumbling upward, like you mentioned, with real people. I
Mm-hmm.
love that, by the way. Why did you choose this approach, and what challenges or joys has it brought in writing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, um my joke is it's like it's a loser's guide to progression. You guys, I'm the loser.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it just to be about me. And I actually spent a couple decades of my life teaching fencing. And fencing is a really difficult sport, and the progression is it can be a hard grind. You have natural talent that just sometimes people are just naturally talented, but that's really few and far between. Life isn't, unfortunately, a power fantasy. And I wanted just to give, like, I love lit RPG. It's my favorite genre. And I wanted to give like just a little bit more realism to a progression. Like sometimes the work and the effort and the all of that's worth it. The talent isn't what gets us ahead. It's just the grit and the tenacity, right? And so I try to show that. The other aspect is it at the end of the day, it's this heartfelt progression novel, but it's comedy, and nothing helps comedy but failure. So like
Yep. Yeah.
So the failing just feeds into the comedy and the snark and the, like, dang, I did it again, sort of aspect of it. And comedy can be very difficult to write. I try to layer it so there's a little bit of comedy for everybody. So if you don't like, the dick joke of a foot-long banana slug named Richard, then
Didn't see that one coming.
right, then there's these other moments where Cole's got a crush on this girl and there's some awkwardness there that's pretty funny, and there's just the interaction between the main characters, like the kind of himbo of the group names their adventuring party your mom's party, and there's just a lot of jokes in there that
right,
you can appreciate.
All right, so now book 1 is out, plus in audiobook format as well, narrated by the absolutely fantastic Jeremy Fraser. Love that guy. And you're working on more.
Yeah.
Without spoilers, what can fans expect in terms of party dynamics, progression, and humor in the next installments?
Yeah. So book 2 is actually out tomorrow as of the recording of this. So by the time folks listen to it, it's probably going to be out. The conflict in the story is really about this friend group growing up, and sometimes those friendships have fractures. They have to heal. They have to find each other a few times. So you get this like found family that expands a little bit, and then people kind of break off and come back. And there's a lot of relationship dynamics that way. The monsters get bigger and better. The stakes start increasing. Book 2 stakes is like a whole city. Book 1 was really more of their adventuring party.
Right.
And the stakes just kind of keep going. What the heart of it, though, of like the found family and the failure and triumph through failure and success and the comedy and the banana slug and the rest of it, that stays really true. But your stakes are going to increase. The monsters are going to get weirder. The situations that they're going to be in are still going to stay, probably a little slimy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you have any like big surprises for Cole, the main character, or like any difficult challenges planned out for him?
Yeah. So part of what you find out is his particular class it's very, very powerful. It actually is a very overpowered class. He gets the ability to die and live and get like recongealed basically. But with that comes a lot of consequences to him personally. And so part of one of the big arcs in like I think the 6th book arc is really Cole having to deal with like, is the power worth it? Is part of what he has to confront, and then the changes that it's doing to him, how he's dealing with that through his progression, right?
Yeah.
We have 2 characters kind of going through that sort of metamorphosis. We have Meredith, who is our isekai goth girl from our world, and she also has some very dire consequences to her class, but she's all in on like, absolutely, this is worth it. But then the cost starts just piling up. And so you're tackling this, is it worth it, from a couple different angles for both of those characters, which I think just makes it more fascinating. And then our core group, Leo, which is a fan favorite. Everybody likes Leo. He is struggling with reaching for his heroic moment.
Yeah.
And part of what you tackle in book 1 is reaching for that heroic moment maybe means leaving his friends behind and struggling with that, right? Because sometimes folks aren't progressing at the same speed as you are. You're just in a different place in life. So a lot of it is just like real character stuff. I really approach these books, there's dungeons and there's battles and monsters and cool loot and stuff. But for me, it's about like, how are the characters lying to themselves, and how are they going to overcome this?
Totally get it. Yeah. While the loot is cool, I mean, it instantly reminded of a Pathfinder group that I'm a part of with other narrators. One of our famous chants you'll hear just about every encounter is loot the bodies, loot the bodies.
Yeah.
So while loot is cool, I love the approach that you're taking in your books, just keeping the humanity almost front and center,
Mhm.
especially in this day and age. Humanity is such an important thing to remind ourselves of.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think that loot and level ups, while it's like the dopamine candy of our genre,
Right.
it's really hard to sustain interest if you're not falling in love with the characters and their struggles. Um, at least for me, I've gotten to the point, and I read so much lit RPG because I do a podcast myself, and um, I'm starting to skim fight scenes a little bit, because it's like, well, okay, yeah, but like eventually that punch is gonna land and he's gonna win, like
Right,
what
right.
happens next, right? Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, talk to me about that podcast. You're a host on Chat and Stats as well as the Rec and Pop Up show.
Yeah. So chat and stats is it changed. So the group kind of
Mm,
split up, and Richie's doing the Richie's Players Guild, which if you haven't listened to that, you guys should. It's good. And so I've kind of split off into my own YouTube channel, Beyond Quests with Rec. And so I do, like, every other week I'll interview an author. I read their book, I interview them about their book, and then for about a half hour, then I interview the second half hours about their process as a writer. And I really enjoy talking to people about the things that they're passionate about. And you're not an indie writer if you're not passionate about it. So it ends up being, but I have narrators on there too. So,
yeah.
yeah. So,
What trends or shifts in the genre excite you right now?
mhm. That's a good question. I think that we are actually on a trend towards more like found family and kind of like humanity based lit RPG. Just because there's so much level up stuff in the genre right now, you can get that at the drop of a hat. And I think you're seeing a little bit more of this like other side of lit RPG. If you look at Royal Road, the top 20, it's really varied. There's a lot of like clickbaiting and titles and stuff,
Yeah.
but you get into some of those titles and you're like, wow, this is actually a good story. It's not at all what the title says it is.
Right.
But I'm actually really enjoying this. So I don't know. The creativity of our genre is pretty amazing. Um, a couple years ago, we had all the like everybody was doing like a food based, like Delicious in Dungeon was taken off, and everybody was like, I'm going to make my food based lit RPG.
Right.
Now, I don't know if I could put my finger on, oh, it's X, but I think that we're trying to, I think with Dungeon Crawler Carl's success, people are starting to ask themselves, how do we keep some of this readership that's not just here for the loot, right? Like, how do we
Right.
make it a little bit more human focused, So,
Completely agree. And I am so happy for both Matt Denneman and the entirety of Sound Booth Theater. My hat's off to them, and I
mhm.
wish them many more successes and blessings to come. Just super huge congratulations to that entire team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like, good job, guys. Like, it's
Yeah,
amazing. And it's
absolutely.
amazing. They're trying to take the genre with them, which is amazing too. It's not
Yeah.
just, yeah.
What common pitfalls do you see new authors making when it comes to lit RPG?
I, I would say that I think writing to market is maybe, I say this, it's really hard because if you're, whether you get to eat or not is based off of whether you sell books, like, you have to figure out how to write to market. But also I would say that if you just write to market, you don't put any of yourself, you don't put any of your heart into your book, that's the biggest mistake, is that you just, write something. But I think people need to ask themselves about whether this something that they're writing is something they're proud of, like they're like, okay, yeah, that I said the thing that
Right.
I needed to say. But I don't know. I mean, I am not paying the bills with my writing yet, so I don't know if I can really talk to that too much, right? That's yeah, it's tricky. But as a reader, when I read something that it's just derivative and
Yeah.
you're like, where's the author's voice? That's the stuff that I'm like, I'll read this book, but I probably won't read book two.
Gotcha. So What is your writing process like? Do you outline heavily for progression elements and stats, or do you discover the story as you go?
Yeah. I am a pantser. I've got like arc milestones and stuff that I'm trying to hit,
Mm-hmm.
but how we get there ends up sometimes going off the rails in really great ways. So when I write strong characters, there's these moments where you're like, okay, this happened. How is Meredith going to react to it? And I actually had this in book two. I Tuckerized Pop Pop, who's a lit RPG personality in there. And if you know Pop Pop, he's got this wild boomer personality, right?
I love that guy so much.
Yeah. And there's this moment in book two where I had this whole thing planned for Tandy, one of my characters, and Pop Pop just like boom, like just destroys all of it because of how Pop Pop would react to a situation. And I was like, why did Pop Pop is hard enough to do a podcast with. Why did I put him in my book?
Because you wanted to. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. And so, there's a moment where you write the chapter and you're like, oh, do I just delete this chapter and try again? And I almost never delete it. I normally just like, okay, well, this is a new problem. What do I do now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've embraced being, quote unquote, that slug guy in the lit RPG community.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is one of the funniest and most heartwarming pieces of feedback you've ever gotten?
Heartwarming is I'll have people, it's just so funny because people read Stumbling Up and I will have people come up to me and be like, oh my God, Richard's such a jerk. And I'll have other people come up to me and be like, I fell in love with Richard. If you don't write more Richard, I'm going to, hunt you down. And, and like people's favorite characters, like I hated Leo or I love Leo. It's just interesting how people connect or like, love, hate different characters.
Yeah.
And that's always fascinating to me. I think that one of the most, Morgan on TikTok, we had a trivia night, and she was telling me about how she's decided that Stumbling Up is a Wizard of Oz retelling. She's like, this character doesn't have a heart, and that one doesn't have a brain, and this one is, not courageous.
Interesting.
And I was sitting there like, I could totally see it, and I'm the person that wrote it and did not.
Huh. So now I have to go back and read it a second time, and now I'm going to have that template filter in my head while I'm reading it. So thank you, Morgan. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I love how somebody can read something and have a completely different interpretation and it be accurate.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So beyond writing and publishing, what other passions or hobbies feed into your creativity?
Yeah, so I mean, fencing has been a big part of my life. I'm not actively fencing anymore. Since I moved to Kansas, there really isn't a fencing club nearby, and I'm not ambitious enough to start a fencing club as well as everything else I've got on my plate. But yeah, I do a lot of like hiking. I've got an herb garden, so I'm in my garden quite a bit. I've discovered rock hounding. I went on a hike with my sister, and we ended up in this glass butte looking at like picking up obsidian. So I have a whole pile of obsidian in my living room right now. So yeah, I mean, I'm very much a nature biscuit, so a lot of outdoor stuff.
What fun. I've never heard the term rock hounding, you said?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot. So like in Oregon, there is a obsidian lava flow that you can go to at Newberry National Volcanic Monument. And you cannot it is illegal to take obsidian from that national monument for very good reasons. But there are multiple obsidian lava flows, and some of them are in like BLM land that you can, like at the place that we went, you can take like 25 pounds a day per person or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And so we did not take that much. Don't worry. We flew. There's no, but it's cool because there's, websites and books and Facebook groups and stuff dedicated to like, here's the cool rock in this area and where you can where it'll wash up along the river or, where you can mine it or whatever. Yeah.
Gotcha. For the aspiring authors out there that are listening to us right now, especially those writing character-focused or humor-heavy genre fiction, what advice would you give them about finding your voice and building community?
Yeah. From a writing perspective with your character work, you need to make sure that your character voices don't blend together. So, um, use archetypes for your characters and make sure that the core of them kind of stays true to who they are. Uh, so you can't self-insert all of your character, right? You need to keep people distinct, and that distinction, just like in real life, breeds conflict, and that's where the story is the conflict between your characters. And so a lot of people, I think, in life and in fiction almost shy away from interpersonal conflict, but that's where the juice is, right? So
Yeah.
lean into it. From a building a community standpoint, it's difficult. I think that it's funny that we have more tools than ever to build a community, but a lot of it, whether it's TikToks or even conventions and stuff, a lot of it's like one way. And so, part of it is how do you encourage like communication between people and just like getting your face out there. I think a lot
Yeah.
of authors are introverted and sometimes just scared of being in public. We all hear horror stories of, the trolls coming after people,
Oh, yeah.
but you kind of have to. It's just kind of it's part of the job to some extent. And cons are a great place to start because it's a lot harder to troll somebody like when they're physically standing in front of you than it is from like a forum. And I
Right.
think sometimes we move to like forums and like faceless interactions, but those are actually in a lot of respects the most troll filled because you're losing the humanity of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that community is going to be more and more important as we see AI generated fiction entering all over the place, because our humanity and our face to faceness is maybe something that AI can't replicate yet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like I've said many a time on this show, I've got a button pin up here in my studio that I got from Emma Faye, who calls herself the Queen of Clean Reads. And the button simply says, AI can't cry. I
Yep.
love it. It speaks that we as humanity, but more importantly, we as a community, which is vitally important,
Hmm.
we have the ability to just have this raw emotion that AI will never be able to replicate.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So, what's
100%.
next on the docket for you? Any teases for upcoming projects? You've already mentioned the one releasing tomorrow. What's
Yeah.
next after that?
So tomorrow we've got Stumbling Up 2, and I'm more than halfway through Stumbling Up 3. So that should happen later this year, probably late summer, early fall. Um,
Awesome.
I've got a new Royal Road novel I'm picking at called this is a reveal, and not many people know this. It's called Chicken with a Gun.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's a absurdist comedy. It should be fun. I've got the first few, we have maybe like 10 to 20,000 words written on it.
Yeah.
But it's a hoot. And so I've got some folks working on the cover art, and I just need to find more time to dedicate to it to get it off the ground.
I love it. When we go backstage, I'm going to pick your brain about cover artists.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Final question for you. You
Hmm.
mentioned cons, conventions. Tell me one thing you're excited about for this year's Lit RPG Con.
Hmm. I'm just looking forward to seeing all my friends. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to seeing people in person. It's Lit RPG Con is like the family hug infusion that you hope it'll be, right? And last year I met so many amazing people just talking in lobbies or at dinner or sit next to somebody in a panel. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody, meeting some new folks, and hanging out. Yeah.
Me too. Oh my gosh. This will be my first time ever going to Lit RPG Con. I
Oh, you're in for a treat.
really wanted to go last year. And I was a little too hasty on buying the ticket. And my wife just kind of gently and ever so politely cleared her throat in my ear. She goes, "What are you doing?" Like, I'm gonna go to Lit RPG Con. She went, "And you didn't talk to your financial advisor first?" Meaning her.
Yeah.
What? crap. All right. Looked at the budget and I had to cancel the tickets. I was like, oh, I wanted to go, man. But this year we're going.
That's
So
exciting.
my wife and I are both coming. We're going to be making the drive out there. That way we can purposely fill our entire trunk full of books. That is
It's a perfectly acceptable thing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And you mentioned that the majority of authors out there are introverts. Well, I'm on the other side. I am very much the extrovert.
Yes.
I love being around people.
I will say that the narrators are kind of steal the show because you're like the extroverts we all need at the cons.
Right. I'm as I've mentioned to Doug Losey, whom I've narrated his entire series. I actually start book 6 next week.
I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get into this book. But I've told Doug and I've told a few others, even on the show, that I'm a fairly big guy. I'm kind of hard to miss, bald head, beard, 6'4", and I'll be wearing my kilts as well. So I'm gonna stick out.
Yeah.
So dear listener, if you're going to LitRPG Con and if you see a guy fitting my description that I just said, it's probably me. Please come and say hi. I love hugs.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, because you narrate Doug and Lance's books, right?
I sure did. Lance Krautlauger. Oh my gosh. Arcane Tides.
Yeah, talk about a heartfelt book. That thing made me cry like 2 or 3 times. Easy. But yeah, so both of them are going to be at the Indie Author booth. So if you're in the vendor hall, check that out too. We've got Indie collective of folks that are selling books. So you can fill your trunk.
Lance Krautlauger actually will be signing. He's got a set time from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday where he'll be signing copies of his book. And he also got approval from the admin. I get to join him signing books during that time slot. That's super excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have a signing slot with Jeremy. So to check my socials, I'll have it posted up here soon. Yeah.
I will definitely stop by, my dude.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. All righty. That does conclude our time here today, Reck. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this show, man. I have appreciated everything that we've talked about. You were just such a treat to just sit and talk with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely delight. And thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review it, subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts, because it is everywhere, be it Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. The list goes on. It helps us to reach more storytellers just like you. You can also drop me a line on social media or email me directly about who you would love to hear next, or even better, if you would like to be a guest on the show. Also, I host a Discord server where I showcase my behind-the-scenes work of audiobook narration. I invite you to click the link in the show notes because I would love to have you as a part of that community. And as always, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody is worthy to be heard. Everybody is worthy to be loved. And I want to hear your story. So until I talk to you next time, dear listener, peace be with you.